The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome to Microsoft Excel for Personal Finance. You're learning with Mo Jones, IT professional and educator. In this course, we'll see how we can utilize Microsoft Excel to set up and manage our personal finances. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's going to be a lot of functions and formulas and tables and lists. Well, that's exactly what we'll be doing here today. Excel is a great tool to be able to manage your personal finances. We'll start off simple. We'll create a personal monthly budget, which consists of managing data tables, building interactive drop-down menus, and of course, we'll have a few topics as well. We'll start off by making individual lists for expenses. Then we'll take a step further. We'll go ahead and add all of our expenses and incomes in a list. And then we'll go ahead and create a table that's based on the individual expense lists as well.
Looking to support our channel and get a great deal? Become a member today to unlock ad-free videos. That's right, your favorite courses without a single ad. Interested in a specific video? Purchase one of our ad-free courses individually. Looking for even more? Gain access to exams, certificates, and exclusive content at LearnitAnytime.com. More information can be found in the video description below.
Well, let's take a quick peek and let's see what that looks like. So there's a lot of different ideas, a lot of different views that we can create. And this one here, we can see we'll be kind of just discovering some different ways to add our expenses, add our incomes, have the running budget, even the current balance sheet. So a good thing to do is just kind of list all of the expenses in one sheet, in one place. After that, we can go ahead and separate the expenses into tables. So for example, here are the housing expenses, mortgage, gas, water and sewage, personal care. We can see that these are tables. And we're summarizing the data here on the bottom. So this kind of gives us a nice high level view. Our total housing expenses are $2,345, personal care $229, transportation $829, and as far as food expenses, we'll go ahead and turn on the total row here to give us the total here, which is $165. And then we can go ahead and add our incomes. It's a smaller table. Most of us will have just one or two incomes here. But here is our total incomes. These are all fictitious numbers, of course. And then we actually have the budget. So a couple of different options here. Here's just a single table. All of these have been entered manually. And just incomes and expenses. And then we have our total here at the bottom. And typically this is sufficient, but we can take it a step further as well. Remember those tables that had our transportation, housing, pets, and personal care? Well, we can connect the information to a single table like this, and we can go ahead and calculate all of our expenses. Notice the balance here is the same because all of our data is the same as well. The other option is to, well, a good thing to do is to keep an eye on your current balance. So if we started, let's say a particular period, beginning balance of 4,000, we can manually enter our expenses. So for example, if I entered an expense and let's say, I don't know, I just went to the market and sorry about that. This is actually a drop down. So let's say I went to get some supplies and I spent $100 on supplies. We can see how it updates my current balance right away. I need to enter this as a debit though. So we can see it updates, recalculates my total expenses, and my balance has been reduced from 4,000 to 3,622. So we'll take a look at some of these different options here. So let's go ahead and get set up. Go ahead and open up the first file. It has a number 1 in the front of it, and come right back. Well, hopefully you were able to open that file. It's called file number 1, setting up. And we just have a few worksheet tabs down here on the bottom. we have a worksheet tab here for expenses, just a few placeholders for us to enter 4 categories of expenses, and a placeholder to enter our incomes as well. So what we'll do first is we'll go ahead and make individual lists for our expenses. And then once we do that, we can convert them into tables. And then we'll use the table tools to be able to summarize each table. So let's head on over to expenses. Now, you can go ahead and enter your own expenses in here. I do have another file, a simple text file. I'll go ahead and open that up here. So it's a text file that's called income and expenses. So we have a lot of expenses in here. For example, here are some housing expenses. Here are some transportation expenses. So quite a large list. You can go ahead and pick and choose whichever ones you want to here. So what I'll do, I want to go ahead and start entering my expenses. I will start with housing expenses. And so I am going to go ahead and simply just copy this data from here. So all of these housing expenses, I'll copy this here, and I'll go ahead and just paste this. So I can right click and just paste. And I'll change this to housing. So these are my housing expenses. Right. I'll go ahead and just automatically resize that column. And then I'll go ahead and complete the process here for the other 3. So I'll go ahead and grab my transportation expenses. So I'll just copy here, paste that in there, fix the columns again. So just entering expenses in here. We need food, of course. So let's see, food. We'll just have groceries and dining out. And then I'll do one more. Maybe I'll just go for, if you have pets, you can add pets. I'll go for personal care. So I'll go ahead and just add these in here. So feel free to add as many as you want. I just want to keep it simple. I'll just add 4 in here. Okay, so now that I have these in here, I just need to go ahead and change the categories up here. So I'll change this to transportation. Okay, and this will be food. I'm missing a T here. So go ahead and add that. And then this one is personal care. Now at this point, you can add more to these lists if you wish, or you can remove some, right? Maybe I'm not concerned about dry cleaning, so I can go ahead and delete this. So just managing your lists, right? Health club, organizational dues or fees, that's perfectly fine. So at this point, go ahead and just enter some amounts in here. I'll go ahead and pause the video and I'll start just entering some expenses in here. I have entered my numbers in here. And so at this point, we're just kind of cleaning things up, and we can remove, for example, if I'm not paying for waste removal, maybe it's included, or maybe I could even add the HOA in here, right? So just go ahead and make any changes as necessary. The next thing to do once we have entered all of our expenses is to go ahead and just format these different lists as well. But what I want to do, I want to go ahead and format this list as a table. So I'm going to highlight all the data. I don't want to highlight that top header because that's just the title. So I'll go ahead and highlight it. And then I want to go ahead and format this as a table. So the first step is to just kind of highlight the data. And then on the Home tab, we're going to use the Format as Table command. So I'll go ahead and click here. And I can go ahead and choose my table style ahead of time. I'll go for that Excel green. And here we go. So my table has headers. It's going to use expense name and expense amount as the table header. And I'll go ahead and press OK. So there you go. Now we have a table. Just 2 more things, well, 3 more things to do. I'll go ahead and convert all of these numbers into either accounting or currency. So I'll go ahead and highlight the numbers in the expense amount column. I'll click on the Home tab and I'll go for accounting. So here's the accounting format. And there we go. So that looks pretty good. I want to go ahead and merge that top row. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those two cells, and I want to merge it into one cell for my title here. So once I have that highlighted, the cells that I want to merge, right here on the Home tab, here is the Merge and Center command. I do want to center it so it looks nice and neat, so I'll go ahead and do that. I can click on the drop down here, and there's different things that I can use. I want to use Merge and Center. That looks good. I'll go ahead and make the text a little bigger. It's a title, and I'll make it bold. So you can make it as big as you want to. And that looks pretty good, right? So far so good. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and repeat the process for the rest of these here. So Merge and Center, Merge and Center, Merge and Center. And I'll go ahead and convert the rest of these into tables. Now, the really good thing about converting these to tables is now if I click here, what I want to do is get a summary row on the bottom. I could enter a formula that summarizes the data for me, but I can just simply click on my table and click on the Table Design tab. And because this is a table, we have a tool that's called the Total Row. And this will actually insert a row to the bottom of my data set here and allow me to either summarize the data, find the average, and so forth and so on. So this is the last thing I'll do. I'll turn on the total row and we can see it's summarizing the data for me. So if I were to add any other expenses in here, it automatically updates the running total on the bottom. Okay, well, this looks good. I'm good to go. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and make the same changes to your other lists here. Go ahead and convert them to tables. Apply the accounting format and turn on the total row to grab your summaries and come right back. Now that we've made individual lists for expenses, we're able to convert them to a table and summarize each table as well. The next thing for us to do is to go ahead and add all of our expenses in a single list. And then we'll convert that one cohesive list into a table and analyze the data as well. So we need to go ahead and insert a new sheet here. So I'll go ahead and insert a new sheet. We also need to add our incomes as well. I'll go ahead and insert the sheet here. And I'll go ahead and rename this sheet. I'll just call this one budget. So this will have all of our budget lists in here. Let's take care of the income first. Right, so I'll click on income and I'll just put two incomes in here. Maybe my contract income, and maybe I'm doing a little bit of freelancing as well. And let's say after taxes, my contract income is 4,500 and about another 900 in freelance work. Right. So I'll go ahead and change this here. This is going to be incomes. I'll go ahead and do the same thing. I'll go ahead and merge and center, make it bold, increase the font size, and then I'll go ahead and convert this list into a table, just like we did before. There we go. Then I'll turn on the total row. Finally, I'll give this the accounting format. So there we go. Total income per pay period, 5,400, or in this case, monthly. So 5,400. Okay, now we have our expenses, we have our incomes. We can go ahead and let's go ahead and set up our budget list. So there's different options. This is just going to be one long list. So we'll keep it simple. So what I'll do here is I'll call this income 1, and then income 2. And then here will be my actual expenses. So I'll go ahead and add all the expenses in here manually. And then at the bottom, we'll have a little summary down here as well. So you can either go ahead and add expenses from this list, or what I prefer to do, I already have them here, so I'll head on over here and I am just going to copy and paste the data from this table since I already have it, and I'll go ahead and paste it in here. I just want the values. So now I have my two columns. Here's the expense and here's the amount. Now I do need to enter these as actual debits though, so I need to convert these to negative numbers. I'll take care of that in just a little bit. I'll go back to expenses. I'll do the same thing here, so I'll copy and paste it in, and just two more. I'm just pasting the values because I don't want the formatting from the table to come over. Okay, one more. There's personal care. And there we go. So here are all of our expenses. So this is simple. We just have two columns. We actually have the income. I'm sorry. We have either the income or the expense, and then we have the actual amount here in column B. All right. So I'll go ahead and enter my incomes. So 4,500 is one. The other one was 900. And then here are my expenses. Right. So I'll just leave it like this. It's a little, go ahead and center align all of my data, and I'm good to go. So here's just a simple list. All of our data is in here. So what I'll go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and convert all of these to the accounting format. Right. So here are all of my incomes and here are all of my expenses. Now what I can do down here is I can just put a little placeholder. So this will require some formulas. So total income, total expenses, and then we want the balance. So for the total income, I'm going to calculate the total income. So I'll go ahead and add these two numbers together. Cells B1 plus B2, and that will give you my total income. And for my expenses, I'll go ahead and add up all of these expenses here. And that will give me my total expenses. So let's take care of the total income first. So I'll enter the equal sign to add my formula. I'm going to add the value that is in B1 to the value that is in B2. So B1 plus B2, 4,500 plus 900 gives me 5,400. I'll go ahead and give this special formatting. Now the total expenses, what I want to do is add up all of these expenses from mortgage or rent all the way down to organization dues or fees. Right. So to do that, I need to enter the sum function. So I'll say equal sum. Here's the sum function. I'll press the tab key. And all I need to do is just highlight all the cells that I want to summarize. So from B4 down to B25. Let's see what that number gives us. Okay, so total expenses are 3,903. The last thing to do here is to subtract the total expenses from the total income. So to do that, I'll enter one more formula, equal total expenses, which is in B26, total income in B26 minus the total expenses in B27. And there's my balance. Not bad. After our expenses, we have $1,497 left over. Feel free to go ahead and format this list as you see fit. I'll go ahead and mark all of my expenses in red. And my balance down here, I'll make it underline and I'll give it a nice big. So here's a simple list of income and expenses. Right. So this is sufficient for most of us who are tracking our expenses. The great thing is if I make any changes later on, these numbers will actually update. So this is dynamic. If my vehicle payment goes to $425, we can see the changes have been reflected here. So it's a nice dynamic list. No need to rewrite the formulas. Just go ahead and enter your information. So go ahead and add all of your expenses and add these three calculations down here on these three rows and come right back. Now that we've added all of our expenses and incomes in a single list, let's go ahead and expand that list. Let's convert it into a table so that we can analyze the income and the expenses. So I'll head on back over to my budget. And what I would like to do, so this is option 2. I want to create a table with a few headers up here. So for example, my first header may be, I'll go for, let's say, expenses. The second one will be for incomes. We want to categorize, so we'll add the category. Then we'll actually go ahead and add the amount of the expense or the income. Okay, so expenses, incomes, category, and the amount. I'll do the incomes first. So I'll go ahead and just copy and paste my incomes. So here's income 1, income 2. I'll also put in the amounts in here. So 4,500, then 900. And then for my expenses, I can just go ahead and copy and paste all of these here. So I'll copy and paste my expenses. And there we go. So they're showing up in here. And I'll go ahead and add the category. So this is the important part here. So we had some food expenses, and I'm sorry, these are housing expenses. And then down here for vehicle payment, these are transportation. And then we had food. And then we had personal care. All right, so I'll go ahead and get the setup here. Now the great thing is, so these are all housing expenses here. So what I can do is I can just use the fill handle. So at the bottom right of every cell, there's a little fill handle here. So if we grab that little square and pull it down, this will populate those cells with housing. So I'll go ahead and pull this down. I'll do the same thing here with transportation. Food only has one entry above, so I'll just type F to auto-populate that cell. And then for personal care, I'll go ahead and drag this down here as well. Now I just need to go ahead and put in the amounts. So same thing, I can just copy and paste the amounts here. When we see those little hashtags here, it just means that the cell needs to be wider so you can see the data, so it's not an error. And we're good to go. Right, go ahead and just resize all of my columns here. Don't know why this is doing that. There we go. All right, so looking pretty good. Now I'll go ahead and convert this into a table. So I'll go ahead and you can add any other columns that you want to in here. I'll go ahead and format this as a table. And so here is my table. So now that I have a table, what I can do, let's say I want to go ahead and let me apply the accounting format here as well. Right. So here are my expenses. So what I can do is I can go ahead and sort. So let's say I want to, sort by a certain amount. I can go ahead and do that. Once I converted this list into a table, I have the headers here. So I can filter by expense or income, or I can go ahead and sort that column here as well. So I can go ahead and do that if I want to. So let's say I want to go ahead and sort by the amount column from largest to smallest, right? So we can see it's also including the income in here, because the income is showing up as, right now everything is showing up as an actual credit, right? We need to express these as expenses as debits and income as credits. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. So let's go ahead and get that set up. So what I should have done was just entered these with a minus sign in the front. So for example, my mortgage, I should have entered it as minus 1,800. And notice how it shows up as a debit. So I could do this manually. Right. Or I'll show you a little trick here because we have quite a few in here. I'm just going to head on over here and write a simple formula. So I'll say equal minus the number that is in this cell. Let me reset this first though. So I can say equal, go ahead and convert this to a negative value. So I'll click on that cell, and if I press the enter key, we can see it gives me the negative here. Now what I can do is I can grab the fill handle, and it's going to convert all of those into negatives for me. Now I can copy those values to the clipboard, and I'm going to paste the values to overwrite those. And there we go. So my second list here is just for the purpose of converting these into negative numbers or debits. Then I just copied and pasted over here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this list. I no longer need this. So now that we have debits and credits in here, let's go ahead and sort. And let's see what this will look like. So largest to smallest, right? So you can see our housing expenses are showing up on the bottom. So it's kind of backwards. And this is because we have the income and the expenses in one table. A better option would be to just have the income in a separate table and have our expenses in one table. That would actually make things much more efficient for us. But for now, this is just kind of how we can get this set up. So I'll go ahead and do smallest to largest. And this is another option. So it places out all of our expenses at the top from largest to smallest. And then our income is down here at the bottom as well. So that actually works. Now I can go ahead and I can filter. So if I just want to focus on my food expenses, I can do that. So here are my 2 food expenses. Maybe food and housing. So just the basic table tools that we have available to perform these different tasks. I'll go ahead and clear that filter. So just giving us the capability to be able to analyze our data. Now that we have our budget in a tabular form, right? So pretty cool. Now what I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the total row, and let's see if it will give us the balance down here at the bottom. So I'll click on table design and I'll turn on the total row. And look at that. It's summarizing this column for us. So it's taking into consideration the debits and the credits. And we know this is correct because we're getting the same amount, that $14.97 that we see over here. So pretty cool. So that's just a simple way that we can add all of our expenses and categories into a table so that we can analyze the data. Let's explore one more option when we're creating a budget. Now remember, we do have the individual expense tables that has the summaries at the bottom. So we can create a budget table that just has a row for all of our housing expenses. That just gives us this number. Transportation, food, and personal care, and any other tables that we have. So we just want to create a simple table that has, that will look like this, just housing, transportation, then we have food, and then we have personal care. And so this will basically be the category and the actual amount. So this is pretty much what it will look like. Now, since I'm here, I might as well go ahead and just create it here. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and link the different amounts here. So we want to link the total housing that will appear here in this cell. And the good thing about doing it this way, this will be in real time. So if these numbers change, this table here will update automatically. So here's transportation. So we want transportation to give us the total of the transportation right here. And let's see, I'll go for another color here. And then our food will show up on this line. And then of course, personal care will actually show up down here as well. So to do that, we can just simply press the equal sign and then select the cell that has that data. So for example, we can see in cell B12, we have the total expenses for housing. So to add that here, I would just say equal B12. So that creates a link with the total for housing and links to this table. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get this set up. And so I'll click here on housing. I'll type the equal sign and I'll click here. It's giving us it's not giving us B12, it's giving us the table name for that particular cell. So you can just ignore that. I'll go ahead and press enter. So there we go, 2,345 has been ported over into our table here. We'll repeat the process for transportation. So equal the sum of transportation expenses. Let's change this to the accounting format. Let's change all of these as well. Okay, this didn't carry over. Okay, so food equals, there we go. And then personal care equals whatever personal care is. So there we go. So here's just a high level table that we can use. And we can add something else here for other. Right. So maybe there's something that we kind of missed out on. Actually, I'll go ahead and I'll show you how we can set that up. I'll go ahead and convert this to a table as well. I'll give this one a different color. I'll go for a blue style here. Right. And I'll go ahead and merge and center the cell, and I'll just call this my budget. Budget by category. So there we go. So just a nice high level budget. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and turn on the total row. And this shows me all of my expenses, $3,903, right? So this is just a nice high level view for our actual budget. Now I could have placed this on another worksheet. I did not have to stay on this worksheet. I could have done it on another one, right? So if I go to income and I want to, let's say, pull in the total from that table, right? It still works. So you may want to put that table that we just created on a separate sheet. I just did it here. It's a little easier to just kind of see how it fits together, and we are good to go. I'll go ahead and let's see if I make any changes to these tables, if this will affect my table here, because we've created links. So maybe I'll go ahead and add an additional expense here for supplies. Let's say I want to start making some renovations, and each month I want to allocate another $250 to supplies. We can see it's been updated here. So that 250 has been updated here. And we can see that our total now has been updated as well. So that's the benefit. Any changes that we make will appear on here. I'll just make this 0. Right, and I'm good to go. Well, what if I were to add, let's say for food expenses, I want to go ahead and add another item here. Let's see if that will update my food. So if you want to add another record to a table, if I right click here, let's see. So I can insert a table row below. So I want to insert another entry here. So I'll right click, insert table row below. Let's see, I'll highlight this record. Let's insert another record here. Let's see if this will work for me. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. Okay, so unlike when you can just insert a row to a list and just push the data down, it's not allowing me to do that here. So what I can do, let's see if I can just move this table somewhere else so it's not interfering with the other tables. So I'll put it down here. Okay, so now I should be able to go ahead and insert another table row below. There we go. All right, so here's my food expense. So I'll go ahead and just add a simple food expense here. I'll call this one, let's say this is going to be for team night out. And this will be another $150. We can see, even though I moved the table and I modified the table, we can see it's updating here, and we're still getting the real-time information. So that is pretty cool. So at this point, what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to move some things around. Get a little more organization in here. And I'll move this one up here like that. I'll move this one up here. So there are my 4 tables, and here is my big table here that is collecting all the information based on these other tables. I'll just give this a quick cell style. And there we go. Now that we have a few different ways to express our incomes, our expenses, and to keep track of our budget, the next thing that we'll do is we'll go ahead and set up a balance sheet. This will give us a real time in terms of what's going out, what's coming in, and what our balance is. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a new sheet in here. And I'll go ahead and rename the sheet, and I'll just call this, let's say I'll call this current balance. There we go. And what do I want to track? Well, I want to track the date of the expense. I want to go ahead and track the actual expense and the amount. So simple, date, expense, and the amount. I'll move over a few columns here. We also want to record some things here, such as the starting balance. We also want to go ahead and track the current expenses. So what are the current expenses that are being populated from the table to the left? And then if we subtract the current expenses from the starting balance, that will give us our current balance. So let's go ahead and get this set up here. And there we go. Okay, so these are all going to be accounting. So I'll go ahead and add accounting in here.
Hey,
And for my expenses, so I'll go ahead and put some dates in here. So I'll go ahead and put January 6th, January 7th, January 8th. Okay. And then we want to go ahead and add the expenses in here. Well, I want to kind of stick to the expenses that I have, right? Such as mortgage or rent, or I don't really want to have to try and figure out, okay, well, what should I name this? What did I call this? So one thing that I can do on the expenses worksheet tab here, I'm going to go ahead and add all the expenses from this text file that I shared earlier. So I'll go ahead and copy all of these. And I'll put it over here. Just paste it over here. So we have all the possible expenses that I can go ahead and record. And now what I want to do is I want to be able to choose expenses from this list. So in order to do that, here's my current balance. I'm going to create some drop downs in here. So I can go as far as I want to. Let's say I want to track maybe 25 expenses at a time. So the first step is to highlight the cells that you want to create the drop downs in. So I'll go ahead and highlight these cells. We can always expand them later. And then I want to go ahead and use on the data tab, we have what's called data validation. So this little icon right here, once I click on here, it's going to open up a dialog box for me and ask me what I want to do. Well, what I want to do is be able to choose from a list. And I'll go ahead, that list is on a specific range. And I want the drop downs. And that's it. So I've already selected the cells that I want to have the in-cell drop downs. On the data tab, I'll click here, right here on data validation. Right now it's allowing any value. That's not what I want. I'll go ahead and click here. I want to choose from a list. So here it's asking me where's my list. I can either type all of those expenses and separate them with commas. That's the long way to do it. This up arrow right here lets me know that I can refer to a range of cells. So I'll go ahead and do that instead. So my list, remember, it's on my expenses tab. So I'll just click inside of the source text box here. I'll click on my expenses and I'm going to highlight all of these expenses. Right. So here's the name of the sheet. Here's the range. And that's it. I'll go ahead and press OK. And we can see here's an expense right here. Right. So maybe this was a maintenance or repair expense. On January 7th, maybe I went to the, let's see, maybe this was where is my entertainment? Maybe I went to the movies. And then on January 8th, maybe I just had some dining out. So I can go down to food. Here's dining out. And there we go. I'll go ahead and enter some amounts in here, maybe 29 bucks for car repair. The movies, maybe I spent $30, and dining out, $120. Right? So I have two options, but I think what I want to do is just enter these as actual debits. So I'll enter a negative number in here. So minus 29, minus 30, minus 120. Okay. Let's say my starting balance was 4,000. And let me apply the accounting format here. And we can see they're showing up here as debits. I could change it so it turns red as well, but I'll leave it for now. Okay, so my current expenses, I just want to summarize the expenses, the running expenses here. I also want the current balance, but I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a table, just like we did before. I'll also go ahead and convert this to a table. Actually, no, I don't want to convert that to a table. I'll leave this one alone. Okay, so I'll go ahead and turn on the total row. So you can see total expenses so far are 179. So for my current expenses, I'll say equal whatever is showing up here. Okay. And the current balance, I'll subtract the current expenses from the starting balance. So this is going to equal 4,000 minus whatever the current expenses are. So this gives us a real-time update on our actual balance. This is not working properly. Let's see. I'll use the sum function here instead. So I'll go ahead and summarize. Okay. So I was subtracting a negative value, so it was adding it instead of subtracting it. So I just decided to use the sum function to summarize this column. And so we can see current expenses of 179. So we're down to 38.21. I'll make this red, make this bold. My current balance, I'll bold and underline it as well. So as we continue to enter, right, so I can go ahead and insert another record in here. So let's say for January 9th, add another expense. And this one is going to be, let's say, do I have fuel in here? Yes, I do. So fuel, $50 minus 50. And there we go. So that is our current balance sheet. In our second segment here, we'll take it a step further. We'll go ahead and track our estimated budget versus the actual costs that have been logged. And we'll also take a look at how we can track the percentage of overall expenses. And we'll go ahead and create some chart visuals to see how we're doing with our expenses as well. So go ahead and open up the file number 2. Has a 2 in front of it. I'll go ahead and get that open here. And here we go. So we already have some data on here for us. And so we're looking at one table. Here's our income table. And here's our table of monthly expenses. So we have the expense, the projected cost. We have the actual cost, and then we have the difference in here. So we'll be making some calculations. And we also have the percentage of the total. So we'll go ahead and populate this column here with some data. And then we can go ahead and calculate the difference. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and put in some actuals. So here's the projected cost, and I'll go ahead and put in some actuals in here. Okay, so here are my actuals, and most of these are pretty much the same. Like, some of these are fixed payments. Others have a little more room for variance, such as groceries. So we projected 400 for groceries, but we actually only spent 320. The electricity, we did a little better this month, went down from 200 to 180. And let me zoom in just a little bit here. So we want to see how we're doing, get a nice big number over here. So we want to go ahead and summarize our projected costs. What are the actuals? And then what is the overall difference? So we'll do it 2 places. We'll do it here in this small placeholder. And we can also add a row down here on the bottom to grab the information there as well. So let's go ahead and calculate the actual difference. Now, to keep it simple, because I'm calculating the difference, I am not entering the actual costs in here or the projected costs as debits. I'm just entering them as positive numbers. So to calculate the difference, I need to go ahead and perform a calculation. So I need to go ahead and subtract the actual cost from the projected cost. Right? So it's just going to be, in this case, F3 minus H3. And that will either give me a positive or a negative number, depending on how I did with my actual costs. I already have the accounting format in here, so this will let me know right away if it's positive or negative. So let's go ahead and get that set up. I'll enter my equal sign. Now, because this is a table, I just need to focus on the top record here. And once I enter my formula, it's going to automatically calculate the difference for the remainder of my records here. So this one is going to be the projected cost minus the actual cost. And once I press enter, we can see it's giving me the values here. So we can see this is 0, 1800, there's no difference here. So we can see some actual numbers showing up in here as well. Dining out, we can see that we spent more. So we're supposed to spend, we allocated $50 for dining out. We ended up using 75, so this is showing 25 here. This one, I'll put in a 0. Looks like it was misinterpreting this cell here, so I just put a 0 in there, and we are good to go. So here is the difference in this column, and if I summarize this column, I should get the overall difference here. So let's see if I can go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and make our calculations here. I'll go ahead and grab the difference first. Since I already have the placeholder here, I'm not going to add the total row down here. So I'll go ahead and calculate the difference. So for this, I'll use the sum function. So what is the sum? I can also refer to the table by name. I have named this table. So if I click on the table design tab, you can name the table. So I named it here monthly expenses. So when I'm actually using my calculation, I can type the name of the table. So there is monthly expenses right there. And if I press the tab key, I can go ahead and enter the name of the column. So in brackets, I can type the name of the column. So here is the difference right here. So summarize the difference column for me. Use my bracket there. And I'll go ahead and enter my parentheses. There we go. We can see it's highlighting the actual column. And I'll just go ahead and press enter. And it shows me a difference of 258. So I'm putting back 258 back into my actual income, which is pretty cool. The other way, I can just simply enter the sum function and then just go ahead and highlight the data here. And it will actually fill in the name of the table and the column for me. So that's one way. This is good because we're on the same worksheet. If we were trying to calculate the difference on another worksheet, we could use the name in the formula. So I'll go ahead and press enter. There we go. Now let's go ahead and summarize the projected costs as well. So equals sum of all of my projected costs. So there we go, 4,338. And then finally my actuals. And there we go. So we can see just by having this difference column calculated already, we don't need to, make any other calculations here for the difference. We could have subtracted the actual cost here from the projected costs to get this number, but we can lock onto the tables and do it this way as well. And so that's it. So that's how we can enter our actuals and calculate the difference as well. Let's finish up this table here. Let's go ahead and calculate the percentage of the actual total. Right? So right now we have several expenses in here. We have 20 to be exact, but they don't all carry the same weight. So we can get, a good indication of which one of our expenses are, consuming most of our income here. And we already know the mortgage or rent is going to be a little higher, but what percentage of our expenses are going to, or of our income rather, is going towards groceries, and fuel and so forth and so on. So there's a few ways that we can do this. I'm going to use, instead of trying to write a formula to do this, I can use the quick analysis tool. So the quick analysis tool is pretty nice. What I'm going to do is highlight all of my expenses here. And now the reason I left a column right here is because the quick analysis tool will allow us to grab the percentage and place it in this column. So that's why I don't have the actual cost here. I have this column here in the middle to show the percentage. So once I highlight it, I can right click on my data set here, or I can click on this small icon. So this is the quick analysis tool. I can also press Ctrl+Q to gain some insights. I'm just going to right click on it and click on the quick analysis tool. And what I want to do is grab some totals. So these will give us summaries on the bottom. I want to move over to the right where you can see we have that far right column here is kind of shaded in. And what I want is the percentage of the total. And as you can see, it's already, just by hovering over it, it's showing me the percentage of the total. So it's showing me that my mortgage or rent constitutes 41.49% of my actual budget. And that's it. I'll go ahead and click on percentage of total. It says that there's data already there. That's fine. It's because it's a table, so it has some pre-formatted data. I'll go ahead and click OK. And there you go. So here is our percentage of total. And fuel, 2.77% of the running total. I'll go ahead and sort this one more time. And you can see it just kind of reshuffles the table for us. So that's how we can use or calculate the percentage of total. If you don't want to use the quick analysis tool, you can just create a formula. We would first need to summarize all of the projected costs and then go ahead and divide, for example, our mortgage, that 1,800. So right now the projected cost is 43.38. So if we wanted to calculate the actual percent of total for the mortgage or rent, it would be cell, looks like F3. So it would be F3 divided by that 43.38. And that will actually give us that 41.49%. But we would have to write two formulas inside of each other. So it would end up looking something like this. So we would first need to summarize all of the data in here. So once we summarize that, at the front, we can say, well, what is the monthly expenses divided by the sum of the expenses? And that will actually give us our answer. So that's the long way, but I wanted to show you the quick analysis tool. It already has that built in for us. So it's a great way to be able to use that feature. And we're good to go. Now that we have calculated our percentage of total, and we also calculated the actual projected cost, the actual cost, and the difference as well, let's create some visuals to tell a story to see how we're doing with our monthly budget here. So I'll go ahead and click on my table here, and I'll click on the Insert tab. And over on the Charts command group, we have recommended charts. So I can click here, and basically Excel will take my data and build out a chart for me. Then I can just go ahead and select the type of chart that I want and the data that I want to be displayed on there. So I'll click on recommended charts, and let's see, the first one here is a clustered bar chart. So we're seeing the difference, the actual cost, the percentage of the total, and the projected cost. That's a lot of information. Let's see this one. So a lot of kind of the same here. I'll go ahead and click here for this clustered bar. Actually, let's click on this clustered column here. Let's see what this gives us. So here's my chart. Now I can go ahead and resize it so I can see what's going on here. Let's see what it's communicating here. Okay, so we have the projected cost. So this is a little difficult because it's kind of hard to read all the information in here. And this might not be helpful. The first thing I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and change the design so I can at least see it a little better. So on the chart design tab, here are the different chart styles. And I'll go for a style number 8, a darker theme there. And now I can see it a little easier here. Now this chart is okay, but I'm going to go ahead and change the chart type. Right? I just want to see how I'm doing with my expenses to see which one stands out. So I'll click on change chart type, and maybe I just want a pie chart. If I hover over it, I can see this is what I'm looking for. So we can see the mortgage or rent significantly higher than the others. So I'll go ahead and insert this one. And this one is showing us the projected cost, which is okay. I can actually go ahead and click on the filter button here. This will pop up for me. There we go. And this is pretty cool. So because this is a pie chart, I can create a pie chart to show either the projected cost or the actual cost. So I'll choose the actual cost. I'll go ahead and click apply. So we can see it just kind of reshaped, not much. We're still, in general, we can see that the mortgage or rent is still taking up a 44% of our actual expenses here. I'm going to go ahead and move this over. Now, one thing I can do when you're working with your charts, you can customize the chart. So what if I wanted to see, maybe the actual numbers in here or the percentage? What if I want to move the legend to the right? There's a lot of things that we can do. If you click on the plus sign up here on the top right, for the pie chart, we have 3 options. Let's see, for the chart title, I can overlay it on the chart. Not much to do there. For the data labels, if I want to turn them on, here are my data labels, kind of showing me the actual numbers in here. And let's see what secondary options I have. So this is the best fit. Here's the center, inside end. That's probably the best one here. Outside end. And then we have what's called data callouts. There's too many values in here for the data callouts. So I'll just go ahead and choose I'll go for best fit. This one makes it so that we can actually see the numbers. They're not overlapping each other. So I'll go for that one there. Okay, now the great thing is we can create more than one chart visual. So I'll go ahead and just make this one a little smaller here. And I'll put this down here. Eventually, I'm going to move the charts into another sheet so we can just kind of visualize them there. But for now, I just want to go ahead and build out another chart. So I'll click on the Insert tab here, Recommended Charts. I do want a pie chart again. So I'll click on pie. I'll go ahead and click OK. The difference with this one is let's see, I'll make this a little bigger. Now it's a little difficult to kind of see how things are because the mortgage or rent is taking up such a big part of the actual budget here. Let me go ahead and change this to the actual cost. Okay. So if I can remove the mortgage, that will give me a little better idea in terms of how my other expenses are doing. So to do that, I'll go ahead and click on where it says Select Data on the Chart Design tab. And I'll simply just remove mortgage or rent from there. And I'll go ahead and press OK. And there we go. We can see this tells a better story. So as expected, groceries are a little higher. And then we have the vehicle payment. And then we have the charity. And everything else is significantly less than that as well. So that is pretty cool. Let's see, I'll go for another style here. So if you click on Chart Styles, I can change the style. So feel free to change it to anyone you want to. This one looks pretty nice. It's showing the percentages and the legend is on the right. So lots of different options here for us to choose from. I'll go ahead and choose one here. Lots to choose from. All right, maybe I'll go for that one's overlapping. I don't want that one. I'll go for this one. Why not? So there we go. So we have 2 quick visuals that we can make. Now what I'm going to do is I can move these down a little bit. I'm just going to move them down here below my data. And I'll go ahead and move this one down here as well. Put it there. And I can make them kind of the same dimensions so that they kind of look similar. So I can do that. We can do other things as well. You know, we can change the background color of the cells so that we can even see these charts a little better here. Let's create one more chart and let's take a look at we can either change this one. I already have 2 pie charts, so I'm actually going to change this one to a tree map. So I'll click on the chart design tab. I want to change the chart type. And here's a more modern tree map chart that we can use. So I'll go ahead and click on this one. And so here's our tree map, right? So the bigger the box, the larger the actual value in here. I do want to remove the mortgage as well. Actually, I'll leave that here. All right, here we go. I'll remove it for this one. I'll click on the filter here. And I'll go ahead and just remove the mortgage or rent. And I'll remove the groceries as well. I'll click apply. All right. And now I can just kind of rename these. So this will be for all of our expenses. And this will be the actual cost. I'll call this custom. Or just in this case, just without the groceries and the mortgage in there. Right. So there we go. 2 nice visuals that we can go ahead and create. I'll take it one step further. I'll go ahead and insert a new sheet. And I'm going to move these charts to that sheet. So if I click on chart design, I can move the chart and I'll move it to that sheet that I just created, which is just called sheet 1. So there it is. So now I have more room here to just kind of display the chart. And I'll go back to my budget here and I'll move this one as well. So I'll use the move chart command and I'll move it to sheet 1. There we go. I'll move this up here. And I'm going to rename this sheet as, I'll call this one budget charts. There we go. So we can go ahead and I'm going to make all these cell colors, change the cell colors here. I'll make them all, let's see, I'll make them gray so we can see the charts a little better in here as well. Right. So very good. So go ahead and build out some chart visuals. Go ahead and place them on another sheet there. The great thing is if we make any changes to our actual monthly expenses here, the chart visuals will update automatically. Now on the expense tracker worksheet tab, I do have a table set up for us here. We are using data validation so that we can choose the expense that we are logging. We have the date, we have the type of expense, we can enter the total cost, and we also have a drop down for the categories as well. So we're basically pulling in the expense and the category from the list that's here. We've used this before. We were able to use data validation to create in-cell dropdowns. So I'm going to go ahead and populate this. And the benefit of doing this is now we can get some more detailed visuals to see how we're actually doing with our spending. So I'll go ahead and create a few more visuals and I'll add that to the budget charts worksheet tab here. So I'll go ahead and just insert, I'll pause the video, I'll insert some expenses in here. I'll do the first one. So I'll click on the drop down. And let's say this was just picked up some supplies. Actually, let's say this was a taxi fare. And of course that is transportation. And I'll put in $12 here. So that's the first one. And I'll go ahead and add the rest here. Okay, I've added just a little bit of information in here. Let's go ahead and insert a chart. So I'll click on the Insert tab here. I'll click on Recommended Charts. And as expected, it's kind of giving me showing me the expenditures by date. So we can see on the 23rd, we had slightly more than the others. I'll go ahead and choose this one. I'll go ahead and press OK. And let's see if this chart makes sense. Let's see if we can make sense of it here. I'll make it a little bigger. Okay, so we do have the dates in here. It's actually showing us the expense, the total cost, and the category. Not really helpful. I just want to see the total cost by date. So this way we can take a look at our expenses and address these high points here and make adjustments as necessary. I'm going to go for a dark theme here so we can see it a little better. And let's click on the Select Data. And we only want to see the total cost by date. So we just have the total cost by date. Let's go ahead and press OK. Right. And that looks pretty fine. We do have some data over here. So we're tracking for the month of January. We do have some December values in here. So a lot of empty space over here to the left. So let's go ahead and eliminate some of these dates here. So we can only have relevant dates. So let's go back to, let's say, the 10th of January. So to do that, I can double click on any one of these dates here. It's going to open a pane on the right side. So I'll just double click here. And let's see, right here. This is actually giving me not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the actual date. This is giving us looks like the serial number for the date here, which is not what I want. So let me see. Let's change this to another type of chart. I'll go for a column chart. Choose this one. And let's see. There you go. Interesting. Just wasn't really picking up the date. It was giving the serial number for the date. So the minimum, I'll start with the 10th. So I'll just put January 10th in here. Then I'll go ahead and close this out. And there we go. So now we have relevant dates that are in here. And I'll just go ahead and give this a quick title. I'll just say Daily Expense Tracker. Cool. So as this list continues to grow, as we add more expenses in here, this will actually update. So if I put in an item in here, let's say I had to order some more supplies for my home. And I'll go ahead and put housing in here. And I'll go ahead and put, let's say this was about $150. We can see it shows up here on the 10th as well. I'll go ahead and move this chart. So I'll use the move chart command. And I'll go ahead and move this to my budget charts. And it wants to overlap this one, so I'll just move this over here. See if I can make some of these a little smaller. And then we'll just try and put all of them kind of side by side. You don't have to. You can use as much space as you want to. But for now, I'll just put them like this. And there we go. So we can continue building out more chart visuals, but just a different type of chart that allows us to answer different questions as well. Now, there are other things in here that we can actually, go ahead and show, but we already have accomplished that already. So we just want to get some expenses by date in here as well. Welcome to part 3. In part 3, we'll take it a step further. We'll go ahead and analyze our spending in a pivot table. And then we want to go ahead and save it as a template so that we can use later on. So go ahead and open up file number 3, which is pivot tables. And I already have some data in here for us. Here we have a daily expense tracker. So we're tracking expenses from quarter 4 of 2024. So we can see we have several expenses in here. Well, not quite. We have from October, November, and December. Right? And we have a short list here of monthly expenses. So they're both tables. Also on the expense and categories table, we have two lists that we're using for our in-cell dropdowns. So these are all in-cell dropdowns that we can use as well. Well, what we would like to do is to analyze the data in a pivot table. The pivot table is going to condense the information for us. So maybe we can put the pivot table over here. Just make use of this space here. And this will condense the information for us. We can ask questions like, what were the total expenses by category or by type of expense? Or get the total for a particular month or a quarter. So we'll take a look at these different options here as well. We might also create some visuals. Maybe we'll create two visuals here just to kind of give us a picture of how we're doing with our actual spending. And then we'll do a little bit of cleanup just to make this look really nice and presentable. And then we can go ahead and save it as a template. I'll go ahead and click on my table here. And if you've never worked with pivot tables before, it's a way of just condensing all the information. We can extract this daily expense tracker table into a pivot table, and we can ask the pivot table to answer specific questions for us. I'll go ahead and click on the Insert tab, and on the Insert tab on the far left there, we'll see the actual pivot table. So I'll go ahead and click on Pivot Table, and it's asking me where do I want to place the pivot table. I do want to place it on this sheet, and let's see, where do I want to place this? Maybe I'll place this right here. No, I'll put it up here. And I'll go ahead and press OK. So here is my pivot table. We can see we have our four fields here: the date, the type of expense, the category, and the amount. Well, I'm going to click on the amount here. I just want to ask a question. What is the total amount based on category? So to do that, I'll just click on the checkbox here. And notice how it moves the sum of the amount to the values box. So it's summarizing all of the amount in the amount column, which is pretty cool. Okay, well, we want the amount by category. So I'll go ahead and click on category here. And if I move this over, I'm going to make this column a little thinner here so we can see it. And there's a basic pivot table. So it's giving us the breakdown of the amount of expenses based on the category. So it's already taking all the data that's in this table and condensing the information here for us. So now we can get a high level view. We can see that our housing expenses as expected are $3,600 for Q4 of 2024. And we can see the food expenses were $2,336. Right. We can actually sort this if we want to. So if I click on the data tab, I'll sort this from largest to smallest, and there we go. So that's a simple pivot table that we can build here. Well, let's see if I can build another pivot table from here. I'll go ahead and click here, and I'll go ahead and insert another pivot table. And I'll place it here as well. And just want to leave a little room just in case I want to add some more monthly expenses to my budget here. So I'll come down a few rows. I'll go down to row about here. I'll go ahead and place that here. Here's my second pivot table. So this one, I want the amount based. This time I want the type of the expense. So here we can see the type of expenses that we have in here as well. So pretty cool. Now, what about a combination of expenses and by category? If I click on category, let's see what this gives me. So this makes it a little more difficult to read, but we can see what it's doing here. We can see here is the, well, this doesn't make sense. We want to put the category on the top. So the category is the higher level and the expense is a subcategory of category. So I'll go ahead and switch these. I'll put the category here, drag it to the top of the row, and this makes more sense, right? So entertainment, we only have one entry for entertainment, which are movie tickets. But you can see for food, we have several types of expenses in here. So it's a really nice view to be able to see in one place. So that looks pretty cool. So those are two quick pivot tables that we can create. We can also close the pivot table fields over here so we can see more of our data. So it's looking pretty good. We have our daily expense tracker. Here are monthly expenses. Here are our expenses by category, and then a combination of expenses by category and expense as well. Let's go ahead and add some data entry here. So I want to go ahead and add a new transaction. So I'll go down. So let's say I'll go ahead and actually modify an existing transaction. And let's see if that will update on our pivot tables here. So I'll go ahead and modify, let's say I had a miscellaneous expense here. Instead of 100, this was 400. So I'll make that change here for gift purchase. So we should see the increase on the pivot table. It's still showing 7701 for both of them. So I'll go ahead and refresh the pivot tables. I'll refresh this one. So I'll right click and refresh. And we can see it reflects the change. So here's the 8001 here. And we can see it actually refreshed here as well. Right. So the pivot table, you can refresh it on demand. If I go to the pivot table options, so if I just right click on the pivot table and go to pivot table options, and if I click on data, let's see, we do have the option right here where you can automatically refresh the data when you're opening the file. So you can actually just go ahead and check that box. Each time you open the file, it will update for you automatically. Otherwise, we just need to go ahead and right click and refresh the actual data. So whether I modify an existing record or if I add another record here, because this is a table. So let's say on 12/31, I had another expense, and this was for, let's see, I'll choose from the list of options here. And maybe this was for some car maintenance. Right. Put at $50 in here. Oops, sorry. This is going to be under transportation. And I'll put, you know what, I'll put 200 in here so we can see the increase. So if I go back up here, right click and refresh, we can see the change has been updated here. And we can see the car maintenance has been updated as well. And up here, we can already see the change that's being listed here. So that's the great thing about working with tables. They expand automatically. And therefore, when you add a new record, you simply need to refresh your pivot table to show the actual update. Let's go ahead and create a pivot chart to visualize the data. So I'll click on this pivot table here, and I'll click on the pivot table analyze tab. And once I click there, to the far right, I have a pivot chart. Pivot chart's a little cooler than Excel charts because we actually have filters built into them that really work well. And they just display whatever's on your pivot table. So it's directly connected to your pivot table. I'll go ahead and click on pivot chart. As expected, it's asking me for the type of chart that I want to create. Here's the clustered column chart. Maybe I prefer a pie chart. I'll go ahead and use that. I'll go for a donut. I'll go ahead and press OK. And here is our first chart visual. The total based on category. Right. Now here's the filter, so I can go ahead and filter if I want to. If I just want to focus on, let's say, the other items, exclude housing and transportation. And here's a different view. Notice my pivot table has been updated as well to only reflect food, utilities, miscellaneous, health and fitness, and entertainment. So that's the benefit. These are dynamic, and we can just simply click and make changes. I'll go ahead and include housing and transportation as well. And I'll go ahead and press OK. So there is my visual. And let's see, I just want to make a little more room here. Maybe I'll place the other pivot chart down here. Let's see what pivot chart we can get from this data set here. So I'll click on pivot chart. And it's going to be a little more cumbersome because we have several different series that we're displaying on here, the category and the actual expense. So let's see if we can find one that that kind of makes sense here. The pie chart typically is just one layer, so we do need to use a clustered column. I'll go ahead and press OK, and let's see what this looks like. Not a lot of visuals in here because we just have a lot of, it's very difficult to read. So let's see if we can troubleshoot this. The best thing to do here is probably to filter. So maybe I want to filter by category. So let's say I just want to see all of my, we have a couple of food expenses in here. So I'll unselect everything. I'll select food and also select transportation. Go ahead and press OK. And we can see the data here. We do need to make the chart bigger so we can see the numbers here. But here are some options as well. Now, let's see. When you're working with the pivot chart, we can choose different layouts. So let's see if I can get another layout here. I'll click on the Design tab and I'll click on their Quick Layout. Let's see if there's a better layout. This one looks better. So I'll go for that one. And they come with styles as well. So we can go ahead and apply a particular style to it. So I'll go for this one. So now I can just go ahead and I should be able to make this smaller now that I can read the numbers. I'll place this one right here underneath. And that looks pretty good. Right? So pretty nice. All right, so that is how we can insert a pivot table, how we can manage the pivot table, and how we can go ahead and create some visuals in here as well. Well, let's answer one more question. Go ahead and construct your pivot charts and come right back. And we'll take a look at one more pivot table tool, which is the timeline. Let's take a look at the timeline. Timeline is a really nice tool. And this will allow us to answer some questions like what were the expenses or my expenses by category for, let's say, October or November or December. So I will go ahead and click on this pivot table here and I'll click on Pivot Table Analyze, and here is the timeline. Now I do have a date field, a properly formatted date field in here. So I'll go ahead and click on date. And once I press OK, here is my timeline. I'm going to change the color, make this orange here. Actually, I'll make it green. A little contrast in here. So the way the timeline works is I want to go ahead and choose the year. So I'll start from the year first. So I want to show, right now it's showing the months for 2025 and 2024. And this works. I can just click here. So if I wanted to actually just ask the questions, what are the expenses by category from this daily expense tracker? How much did we spend in October? So notice when I clicked on October, it's showing me October of 2024. And we can see the numbers been updated. All of these numbers have been updated to reflect October of 2024. So that's pretty cool. And I'll go ahead and fix this up. I don't want to see 2025. I'll click on years and I just want to see 2024. And now I can drill down to months for 2024. Right? So for 2024, November. So let's see, October 2652. Take a look at my pivot chart. Notice how that is also updating as well. So 2652 for October. November, pretty consistent, 2482, spent a little less. So we're under budget there, which is pretty good. And then let's see how we did in December. So in December, we had significantly more, 3067. That was because of the entries that I made down here. I added the additional car maintenance and that gift purchase we increased as well. So just a little in there, but this gives us the capability to just click on these buttons and to kind of see how we're doing. So I'm going to resize this and move it over to the right a little bit. So now we can just simply click on either October, November, or December And as we continue, the list continues to grow. I'll just show 4 months at a time. So once we start entering values for January, we'll start seeing some summaries here for January as well. And I'll go ahead and put this over here. Okay, so now we have a lot of places we can click on to analyze our monthly expenses. Before we convert this to a template, let's go ahead and just do a little bit of cleanup here. Now I want to move some things around. I'm going to just kind of move my timeline out of the way here. I want to go ahead and see my visuals down here. I want to try and see if I can see everything on one page. So I'll go ahead and move my pivot table. So the first thing I need to do is just highlight the entire pivot table. And if I move my cursor towards the border, I can see the 4-way crosshair here. And I'll go ahead and move this right up to here. I'll go ahead and fix those columns. And I'll go ahead and make these columns a little smaller so I can actually see the details there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now I can move my visuals over here, and they don't need to be that big. And here is my other visual. I'll go ahead and put my timeline in here. And let's see, I'll put just a little bit of space just in case we want to add another. And I'll just reclaim some of the space here. My timeline doesn't need to be that big, so I'll expand these. And I'll come up so we can at least see everything here on this screen. Right, so here are my 3 visuals. I'll change my timeline to another color, just for a little variety here. And I'm good to go. Now I could also go ahead and change the name that's being displayed here. So let's see if I can rename this. I'll right click. I'll go to pivot table options, and I'll change this one to, let's say, expense by, these are categories. I'll go ahead and press OK. And actually that just changes the name of the actual pivot table. So if I want to keep it consistent, I can go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and move this down just a little. Also move this one down just a little bit. And we'll put I'll use my format painter here. And then now I can just go ahead and type in the title here. So I'll just say expenses by category. And this one will be expenses by category and expense, right? Or maybe amount by category. Amount by category and amount by category and expense. So it looks nice and uniform and good to go. All right, well, what we want to do is typically when you're working with a template, you want to remove the values here. So to give whoever's using the template the chance to add their own values in. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these numbers here, because these visuals, they're all based on the entry here in column D. I'll press the delete key and I'll reset my timeline here to show all periods. And if I right click and refresh, we can see we have 0 in here. It's waiting for us to enter data. My chart visuals are not showing anything. So I'll go ahead and enter a housing. Let's say 1800 for housing. And now if I refresh, we can see it showing right up here as well. This one I believe is being filtered. Yeah, this one is being filtered. So I'll clear the filter from there. And here is my information here as well. Right. So very good. We're good to go. I'll go ahead and delete that value again. And at this point, it's all about styles. So if you want to change these cell styles, we have lots of cell styles available here. But I just want to go ahead and save this as a template. So to do that, I'll press the F12 key on my keyboard, and I'm going to change this to an Excel template. This is going to save in my templates folder. And once I press save, I'll be good to go. So I'll just call this monthly budget. I'll go ahead and press save. Do you want Microsoft to clear the data before saving the template? Yeah, that's fine. I'll go ahead and say yes. So now the next time I come in, if I click on the File tab and I go to New and I click on Personal Templates, here is my monthly budget that I can open and work on as well. Welcome to part 4 of our Excel for Personal Finance. In part 4, we'll take a look at two functions. We'll use the FV function to calculate the future value of an investment. And we'll take a look at the PMT function to forecast monthly payments as well. Let's go ahead and open up file number 4. And for file number 4, we want to go ahead and calculate the future value of an investment. It is based on compounding monthly interest, and it is based on a fixed interest rate and constant payments. So I have a little kind of dashboard set up over here. It's based on what the FV function is going to be asking for. So the FV function returns the future value of an investment based on periodic constant payments and a constant interest rate. So it's asking us for the rate. So we need to go ahead and express that here. We could type the information in here, but we're going to be referring to these cells so that we can change the numbers and get some real-time updates. Number of payments here. Payments can be monthly, yearly, or even quarterly. And then we have our monthly deposits. So these are payments. So these are really how much are we contributing to this investment on a monthly basis. And then the PV, this is the present value. You can start with 0. Maybe you want to deposit, let's say 500 into the account to start. And then we have the type. We'll cover the type in just a little bit here. With the type, you can either make a payment at the beginning of each period, in this case the month, or you can make deposits at the end of the month. So let's go ahead and plug this information in here. So the interest rate, so let's say this is 11%. So pretty nice rate there, 11% interest. And we want the number of monthly payments. So we want to express this monthly, take advantage of the compounding monthly interest. So we need to express the amount of years. Let's see what 5 years of investments will look like. So I need to multiply 5 times 12, and that should give me my 60 months here. Now I'm expecting to deposit about $350 per month. Now I need to express this as a negative number. So I'll go ahead and type minus 350 here. Okay, this is not going to tell us here in the function that we need to enter these as negative numbers, but we do, and we'll see why. For the present value, let's say we're starting off with 500, so this needs to be expressed as a negative number as well. So the present value is 500. And then for the last part, again, here's the type. So the type is either a 0 if we're making payments at the end of the month, or a 1 if we're making payments at the beginning. So I'll go ahead and put a 1 in here for now. And let's go ahead and calculate the future value based on these terms. Right. So I'll go ahead and click on the Formulas tab, and under the Financial dropdown, here is the PV. Returns the future value of an investment based on periodic constant payments and a constant interest rate. I'll go ahead and click there. And here's the function arguments box for the FV function. So here are the different parts here. We already have all the information. We need to go ahead and point to the interest rate. So I'll click here on cell C5. This is a merged cell. Looks like D5, but it's C5. Now there's a little caveat here. It does tell us that the rate is the interest rate per pay period. So if we want to if we want to make quarterly payments, we need to divide the interest rate by 4. Or if we want monthly payments, we need to divide it by 12. So I'll go ahead and just put divided by 12 here. We convert it to a smaller number. NPER, those are the number of payments. So I'll click here. It has my 60. So let's enter the payment here. I'll go ahead and click on the monthly payments. And then the present value is currently at 500. So we can see we're already getting an answer here. So even though we're entering these as negative values, it's expecting negative values here. So we can see right now, based on these conditions, our balance after 5 years or 60 payments should be $28,695.79. Now this is based on if we are making deposits at the end of the period. So I'll put a 1 in here to indicate that we want to make payments at the beginning of the period, which is a 1. I already have the 1 in here. And let's see if this number, it should go up just a little bit here. I'll go ahead and put a 1 in there. And we can see it goes up to 28,950.91. I'll go ahead and press OK. And there we go. So if we were to start off with a balance of $500 and we make 60 payments of $350, our balance at the end of 5 years would be $28,950.91. So go ahead and plug your numbers in. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and calculate the total deposits and calculate the interest that was earned over the course of this investment. Now that we've calculated the future value of this investment, it's a good idea to kind of get some more insight. So how much did we actually earn in terms of interest? And how much did we actually invest in here as well? So we need to do a few things. I'll go ahead and put a little placeholder here for, let's say, total, and I'll say total deposits. So these are my deposits, which will be a calculation. And then we need to go ahead and also calculate the interest earned. So go ahead and calculate the interest earned here. Now the total deposits is going to be a few things. It's going to be the 60 monthly deposits of $350 plus the initial deposit of $500. So I need to go ahead and calculate that, right? So that should give me a number here. So I'll go ahead and add those together. Now these are showing up as negative numbers. So I need to go ahead and take note of that. So I could just enter the numbers in here manually, right? I can say equals 350 times 60. And so that will give me my number there. And then I need to go ahead and add that 500 to there as well. Right? So that gives me 21,500. But by typing the number like that, if I change these numbers later on, I want to get a real-time update for my total deposits. So in order to do that, I'm going to enter my equal sign here. And I want to, the first part of the calculation is I want to negate. So I'll enter a minus sign here. And it's going to be, I'm going to multiply the 60 times the 350. And that should give me a positive number because I'm adding a negative here in front of it. So if I click here, it gives me 21,000, which is okay. But I also need to go ahead and add the 500 here. I'll say plus 500. So that gives me 21,500. Right. I'll go ahead and express that as, use the accounting format here. So use accounting here. Okay. So future value, so $28,950.91 minus my total deposits, that should give me my interest earned. So I'm going to subtract the total deposits from the future value after 5 years. And that gives me $7,450.91, right? So we can say that we deposited the amount of $21,500. And the interest earned was $7,450.91. So not bad. Of course, as this continues over time, if the market stays, constant, then this would be a much larger gain. Well, I do want to just do a quick comparison here. I use an online banking tool, and let's see if we get the same numbers in here. So if I just scroll down, I actually have the picture right here, and I'll go ahead and bring this up here. And I'll go ahead and remove this picture. And here we go. So we can see that we have a nice match, right? Start with 500 after 5 years. Interest rate is 11%, compounding monthly. Additional 350 at the beginning of each month. And we can see we have a match here. 28,950.91. Total interest 7450.91. And we can even make a little chart here if we want to as well, based on the data that's down here. Good to go. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and use the PMT function to calculate the payments per month based on an existing loan. Now, the PMT function looks a lot like the FV function, but it's asking for some different arguments in here, right? So let's go ahead and plug this in. So let's say we currently have a loan. The interest rate is at, let's say, 9%. And we're currently scheduled to pay this off in about 48 months. And the present value of the loan is, let's say, $12,000. So this is 12,000. I'll go ahead and enter my $sign here. So what will be the payments per month based on these conditions? So we'll calculate the payment first. And then we'll go ahead and change this. What if we want to pay this off earlier? What would the payments be? So let's go ahead and plug this in. We already have the information we need. So we already have the interest rate, which is 9%. We have the number of payments, which is 48. And the current value of the loan is 12,000. So I'll go ahead and insert. I'll go back to the formulas tab, and under the financial, I'll go ahead and look for the PMT function here. Here it is. So it calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. So I'll go ahead and make this calculation here. And so I just need to go ahead and plug in the information. So the first part is the rate. So I'll click on the interest rate here, and it does give us the same kind of stipulations here. We need to specify if these are quarterly, yearly, or monthly payments. So I need to divide that by 12. And then we have the number of payments, the total number of payments for the loan. So we already have that information. It's right over here, 48. And so I'll go ahead and plug that in. And then the present value, this is the present value, the total amount that a series of future payments is worth now. So I'll go ahead and click on there. And we can see it's already giving us the answer. It's showing us the payment in the form here of a debit. So $298.62 would be the monthly payment. The other two arguments here, we don't need to use those. And we'll go ahead and press OK. And there we go. So based on these conditions, the payment will be $298.62. So this is a forecasting tool. So if we want to change the number of payments, if we want to pay this off in 36 months or 3 years, if I change this to 36, let's see what the payment would be. So the payment balloons to $381.60. Right. I'll put this back to 48. Now, what if I can transfer this to another service that has a lower interest rate? And let's say at, 7%, then my payment will go down slightly here to $287.35. So that is the PMT function here. Now, what if we want some more information, such as what if we want, different interest rate and different months in here? So right now, I'll go ahead and put the months in here. So I'll put 48 months here. I'll put 60 months here. And actually, I'll start with 36. So I'll put 36 months, 48 months. I'll go for 60 months, 72 months, and then for 84 months as well. And then down here, I'll put some other interest rates. So I'll go for, let's say if I can get 7% in here. And 8%. 9%. Let's see if I can lock in a sequence in here. Right? So what will be the payments if I had 36 months at 7% interest, and if we had 84 months at 11% interest? We'll take a look at how we can use what's called the data table, and this will actually plug in all these values for us based on the original values here for our PMT function. So we'll take a look at this. Go ahead and enter your loan information in here and go ahead and figure out the monthly payment. Let's finish up here by using the PMT function in conjunction with the data table to give us some information such as what is the monthly payment based on 7% interest at 36 months, or another example, 84 months at 11% interest. So the PMT function is what's needed to drive the data table. So here's the data table. The data table, before we run the data table is going to assume that we have the PMT function in that top left cell. So we have to construct the table in a particular way in order for this to work. And once we have it up and running, we're good to go. So we just need to make sure we have the PMT function in that cell. And then we can either have the, so here in the column, we have the interest rate. We could have placed the months in here if we want to. So here's the interest rate. And then in the row, we have the months. Okay. We could switch them. We could put the interest rate in the rows and then the months in the column. We just need to let the data table know what do we have in the row, which is the months, and what do we have in the column, which is the interest rate. So let's go ahead and write our PMT function in here, just like we did before. And then we can go ahead and highlight the table and use the data table feature, and it will populate those cells for us with the information. Okay, so I have my PMT function in here, just like we did here. So it's the same formula. So now it's here. So now what I can do, I'm going to highlight the table here, and I'm going to, on the data tab, here is the, under the what if analysis, here is our data table. I'll go ahead and click on there. And let's see. Just want to be careful. You want to make sure you only grab the row that has the formula. So if we had some headers up here, you don't want to click there. You want to start by highlighting that cell here that actually has the formula. So I'll go ahead and click on data table. And as expected, it's asking me, hey, I can set up this data table for you, but you need to let me know what do you have in the rows and what do you have in the cells. So let's take a look at this. So this says row input cell. This is really asking us, what do we have? Well, really asking us two things. And I'll write this out here because this can be a little confusing. So it's asking us, what is in the rows? Great. So what is in the rows? Well, in the row right here, we have the months. So this is going to be the months. So I'll put months in here. The second part of that, though, is it says, what is the row input cell? So what is the cell that represents the original months for our calculation? So second question here is, in this case, for the month. So what is the, space here? I'll say, what is the original cell for the months. Okay. So the original cell for the months, well, that's right here. And this cell, this is the part of the calculation. So I need to point to that cell. So that's what I need to do. Right. So because we have the months in the row, I need to point to the original cell that has the months, which is cell C5. So we're good to go here. The next part is, what do we have in the columns? Well, in the columns, we have the interest rate. What is the original cell for the interest rate? Well, it's right here. So we have the interest rate in the columns. The original cell that has the input value for the original interest rate is right here, cell C4. So I'll go ahead and click there. And once I press OK, it's going to populate all these cells for us. And we'll take a look and see what the PMT data table actually did here. I'll go ahead and press OK. And here you go. So here's all the information. So here is the original right here. So remember, 48 months at 9% interest, we have 298.62. If we want to pay it off earlier with a smaller interest rate, we can opt for 7% at 36 months, and we can pay it off $370.53. So what did the PMT data table do? Well, for each of these cells here, we don't really see the information, but for all of these cells, basically what it's done for this calculation, it replaced the original months, which is 48, and the original interest rate, which is 9, and just changed the formula for us. It plugged in 36 months at 7% interest. We don't see the formula here. It's relative. And so that's pretty much what it's doing. So instead of us having to build a table like this and change the values manually, that's what the PMT data table is doing for us. And we're good to go. It's a really nice forecasting tool. We've covered quite a bit here in our Microsoft Excel for Personal Finance. Hopefully you have some really good takeaways. We did take a look at several tools. Hopefully you found the tool that works really well for you. And we hope you enjoyed the course. We look forward to seeing you in a future Learnit course as well.